Hey, welcome back to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name's Lachie, Stuart, and today's episode is going to have no guest. It's not going to be what's on my mind. It's going to be who is Lachie Stuart? Who am I? What is my story? Because of late I've had heaps more people asking what my experience has been. Why am I so passionate about men's mental health? Why am I so passionate about men's health in general? So I thought, why not just share the whole lot? So I'm not sure just yet because I'm literally recording this live without any notes. I'm just going to go back to the very beginning and we will see whether it needs 1 or 2 episodes. I'm not sure. Hopefully I won't bore you guys, but I definitely want to share more about where I've come from, some of the experiences that I've had, what lessons I've learned from those experiences. And I know a lot of you guys will resonate with that and you'll be like, well, that sounds exactly like where I'm at or what I've been through as well. So, it's good to share with you guys that for those of you who are following my Instagram or listening to the podcast, that, we have relatable experiences. It may not be the same, but, I want you guys to understand that each and every one of us, or you guys who are listening to this episode, everyone is going through shit, right? So many of us men are emotionally beat down because we have to focus on so much of the stereotypical being a male or being a man that we lose connection with ourselves and we lose that emotional connection with other people. So hope you guys get a lot out of my story. I'm sure you will. And this will be really the first time I've told it on a podcast form. Like I've told it bits and pieces, but I'm going to fucking share everything today. So enjoy the episode. So guys, at the time of recording this, I am 28, so I'm actually really, really excited to be able to listen back to this in a couple of years' time and see how much I've grown and changed and my opinions of myself have changed, and even be able to give this to my kids in the future to listen to this audio. I think it's pretty incredible now that we can document all of this and have it as a resource for the rest of our lives. So I think it's 2019. Shit, 2019. But like I said in the intro, guys, this episode, I really want to share a bit more about who I am, because obviously over the last sort of 6 months, I've had a lot more people learn about the Man That Can project, what we're doing there, and also more people start supporting my content on Instagram. So rather than obviously I'm sharing little bits and pieces about my life and my experiences through that, I would love to be able to share through this audio a lot more about that. So you sort of can see why I have the values and beliefs that I have, because obviously, once again, guys, one of my biggest things is as we learn and evolve and change, our values and beliefs can change. So who I am right now and what I value and believe may change through different periods of my life. And I want you guys to understand that, because a lot of people disagree with the stuff that I say, but also a lot of people really resonate with it. So I want you guys to also understand, when you see people disagreeing with stuff that I say, understand that they're just coming from a different set of values and beliefs, and that's okay, because their experiences or their life experiences have shaped that. Okay, so it's really having empathy for people and really wanting to understand where people are coming from in that point of time. Okay, so for me, who is Lachie Stuart, or Lachlan, is the real question. And why am I so passionate about men's health and men's mental health? And guys, I will be having a drink during this because my mouth is super dry. I just had a few beers, so it's gonna have some water now to wash that down. So for me, like, I was born in a town, Toowoomba, and I know you guys, I'm gonna brush over this, so we'll get straight to sort of the message. But I grew up in Toowoomba with population, at that time probably under 100,000, but then also spent all holidays at my mum's parents' farm out in Gundawindi. So we're always exposed to a lot of outdoor stuff, riding quad bikes, heap of acreage, dams, swimming in dams, doing all that sort of stuff, which was, such an incredible experience as a young person, because it taught me to get outside, get creative, but it also, I think it kickstarted my passion for wanting to move the body and loving to climb trees, and that whole adventure aspect of, really, that makes up a massive part of who I am as a person today, right? And that was all shaped from those upbringings, right? But it wasn't until, and we'll fast forward a few years, really where everything sort of kicked into place. So I stayed in that Toowoomba, and then from a young age, it was when I was 10 years old, so grade 5, I got second in my first ever. It was my first ever year of competing in athletics, 800-meter runner, and got second at the state titles, um, which was pretty cool. I didn't even, never really focused on it or did anything like that. Just ran and was fortunate enough to get a good result, which then led to me hiring my first coach. I didn't hire it. My mum was like, maybe you should get a coach because you seem to be pretty good at this. It'd be interesting to see what you could do with a bit of training. So then I came back the next year, won it. The year after that, I had an asthma attack and didn't go too well, obviously. But that was from then, like even from that first one, I became so competitive, or that competitive side came out of me. Um, I was addicted to training. I listened to everything my coach said. I listened to everything my mum said. And I actually did a post today talking about brain gym and or what is now known as visualization, but my mum introduced it to me as brain gym, where I would actually spend time visualizing my races or how I wanted to run a race. And to me at the time, I was just like, well, mum's told me to do it, I'm going to do it. Looking back, I'm like, that was my first ever exposure to visualization. I was like, imagine if I'd continued to do that and if I didn't just do it for, my sport. And obviously now I implement it and I tell people to do visualization. Now I think it's such a powerful tool, but I would spend, nights before races, mornings before races, the lead up to races, going over in my head how I wanted to run my race. From the moment that gun went off to how I would run my first lap, what time I wanted to run that first lap in, how I was breathing, how I was feeling, to then how I was going to bring it home, what that would feel like, where my legs feeling knackered, right? So I had that whole experience going on from such a young age. And I think, that may be one of the reasons why I'm so open to visualization and all of this sort of stuff now at this age. It could be one of the, sort of key reasons for that, because I experienced it at a young age. And when I first got reintroduced to visualization only a couple of years ago, I was like, shit, mum was getting me to do this, but it was called brain gym when I was, 10, 11, 12 years old. And I continued doing it right until I left high school. Obviously, still based around athletics. I never did it in any other aspect of my life. So I'm super grateful for that experience. And that's why, I'm such a big believer in it, because I've had, even though I wasn't aware of it at the time, I truly believe it gave me some incredible results as an athlete, purely because of those skills that mum taught me from a young age. So obviously from that, won a few state titles, did well at the nationals, got a second, and it was from that, like, I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship into a good school in Toowoomba Grammar School actually, which then also exposed me to rugby union, or like I was playing a little bit, but that was like the cool thing. It was a rugby dominated school. Now at this point in time, along with running, my hobbies were skateboarding. Like I lived and breathed skateboarding. My reward for going to state or whatever would be getting a new skateboard or getting to go to the monster skate park at Sydney Olympic Park. Like that was what I honestly loved so much. Just the freedom of it, getting on the board was just unlike anything else. It still is to me to this day. It's just allows me to forget about everything else and just be free. Like it honestly feels free. Like I love it more than anything. And now it's sort of replaced skateboarding with surfing, but back then that was what it was to me. But obviously while I was pursuing sport, athletics was the reason why I got into this school. But obviously, being young, being influential, I was bullied at primary school. I was in saying this, I was still what's called a popular kid because I was a good athlete, but at the same time I was still bullied from people older than me because I had a really high voice. Right? So as a male, from a young age, I was getting picked on because my fucking nuts hadn't dropped. I had a high voice.
So to be, thinking like a young male, it's like you're supposed to be masculine, you're supposed to be tough, and you're obviously supposed to be going through puberty, and you're supposed to have a deep voice. And I never thought I had a deep voice, but when it kept being brought up to me, I was so self-conscious. I got to a point where I wouldn't speak. right? Like I was so self-conscious to speak that, because if I opened my voice, someone was going to pick on me for having a high voice. So as a result of what happened from those fucking nasty remarks, and this is why I hate bullies now, and I hate people who try to belittle people, because you don't understand the power of your words. I know people say don't listen to what people say and, da-da-da-da-da, but like the power of words is so fucking incredibly hurtful for young people who don't really understand, or they don't have enough self-awareness to realize that it's not personal and everyone's going through their own thing. But to me, when I constantly kept doing that, I became this quiet kid. So when I was first went to high school, I was fucking terrible communicator. I could not speak. I was afraid to speak. Right? Everyone, there was a point where he's one of my closest mates now, but he would just be like, Lachie, you literally just sit there and it's like you're observing, you never speak. Ever. And it wasn't because I didn't want to speak. I think, and no, at this point, I was going through puberty, but I'd become conditioned not to speak. I was worried to the point that if I said something, someone was going to bully me. Someone was going to say something to me. Well, I went to a completely different school to all my primary school friends. I literally the last minute before I had to decide, I was like, nah, I'm going to go to this other school. But for whatever reason, it was gut feeling. And to be fair, looking back, it was one of the best things I ever did. I'm really glad I went to this school. But at the time, so I went to this high school not knowing anyone. And then also not, while I was a good athlete, I still lacked self-confidence because I was picked on for having a high voice. So then when I went to this high school and I'm, trying to, meet people in class, and I wasn't confident enough to speak up, to talk, to do anything like that. And when I made some friends after, I think it was actually one of my best mates now, Alex Winton, we knew each other from cross country, from running cross country. He started hanging out with me, but I was still so quiet. Right, so it wasn't until, I got to the point where I won the cross country and I won the athletics, and then I made I wasn't even in the A's football team. I was in the B's, the 13 B's football team. Right, so I started hanging around the footy lads, and a lot of the people were talking to me now because I'd won the cross country, won the athletics. All right, so I sort of had a sport reputation, right, which was cool because I felt, I started feeling valued. I started feeling like I fit in, which is ultimately, I think, what I was looking for at this whole time. And at this point in time, I wasn't getting bullied. It was fucking awesome. It was later on when, because like I mentioned earlier, one of my biggest passions was skateboarding, and I was what people in Australia call a skeg, right? I would hang out with different people outside of school, even though I hung out with, the rugby boys, and a lot of these guys are great people and still some of my friends now. But at the time, because I was a skater, I'd spend my weekends skateboarding and I'd hang out with a completely different crowd. So I would get bullied for that, bullied for wearing skinny jeans, bullied for just being a skater boy, skinny, all that sort of stuff. But at the time, because I lacked self-esteem, I lacked understanding who I truly was and what I needed to do to be a strong man, like to be a strong in myself, not just man, but to be strong in myself, I folded. Right? It was when a good mate of mine, Toddy Begay, left the school because he used to skateboard with me, even though we played rugby together. He skateboarded with me. When he left, he left our school and went to another one. I didn't have anyone there to sort of band with me and, sort of give me the validation around continuing to skateboarding. So it got to that point where I was like, fuck it, I'm going to throw in the towel for something that I really love. I stopped it because I didn't want to be called a skeg anymore. I didn't want to feel like I was on the outside. I wanted to fit in, and I think so many of us guys, we do shit because we want to fit in, and we lose ourselves in that process. And I feel throughout this process and over the next sort of, I was 14 then, probably the next 8 to 10 years after that, I lost myself. Massively lost myself. Because I was trying so hard to fit in. I was sacrificing and getting rid of all the things that truly meant something to me. Or, I didn't obviously know that at the time, but it was stuff that I really enjoyed doing. So I was just like, fuck it, can that, let's focus on footy. And, it got to a point where, grade 8, 9, I think grade 9 I got second at the Nationals, so that was probably my best year in my running. But after that, I started getting an ego around footy because I made the A team. I think I was in 14 Bs, and 15s I made the As. I was like, yes, I'm like a good footballer now. So that's when I started getting an attitude and being like, fuck it, I don't want to do athletics anymore. I want to focus on rugby. Like, that's, I get more attention from the girls. I get, more attention from the guys. Okay, that's where I want to be. I want to feel valued. I want to feel respected. I want people to think I'm amazing. Because as a runner, I wasn't getting that. Like, people were like, yeah, cool, but all the praise was on the footballer. So from someone who lacks self-esteem, lacks self-confidence, being in a position which can give you that, of course I was going to fucking take it. There's no way I was going to turn that down. And I didn't have the confidence to be like, I'm just going to focus on running and focus on, or continue skateboarding and doing what I want to do. Let's do something that's going to make me feel like I'm something. And that's what I chose to do, purely because I wanted to. I wanted that feeling. I didn't want to be a nobody. I feel so many people out there don't want to be a nobody. We all want to feel connected and all that sort of stuff. But my biggest point from this part of my story is that if I was educated from a young age, that you could still get that recognition, that value from yourself. You don't have to give up what you love or who you are in order to achieve that. I would have still been skateboarding all the way through school. I probably wouldn't have played rugby for as long as I did. I may not have even played it at all, right? But because I was chasing something greater than myself and I didn't really know what that was, I just thought rugby's going to give me that. So let's pursue that and put everything else at bay, right? And because I was bullied for doing those other things, I wanted to follow the crowd and fit in. So it just all guided me towards that. And I think it's so fucking relevant in today's society that people feel pressured to, get a university degree. And once again, this is from my own experience. When I was finishing school in the school that I came from, I felt pressured to have to go to university. I felt if I was doing anything less, I was an idiot. I was dumb. I was not going to be successful. That's legitimately how I felt. I freaked out when I had no idea what I wanted to do. My goal was to be a professional rugby player, but I freaked out when I had no other options. I was like, fuck, what does someone like me do? Like, I applied for university. I got into exercise science, but I didn't want to do it. I knew for sure as hell I didn't want to do it, so I deferred. Right? But I was like, if I don't do this, I'm not going to be a success. So I had to live with that. And I know so many other dudes are living with that right now, not feeling like they're ever going to amount to anything because of this pressure we leave school with. But I'm fucking telling you right now, it's complete crap. Right? So many of them, the happiest, most fulfilled, most successful people I know haven't been to university. They've learned stuff through doing. They've followed, whether it's passion or they've just followed areas of interest, right? And made something of themselves from that, made their own businesses, networked and got great opportunities, got great employment roles from that, right? And I still feel to this day, I think I started uni 3 times. And each time was because I went through that period where I was like, I'm going to amount to nothing. I better sort of jump on this university bandwagon, get a degree before it's too old, before I'm too old and before it's too late. And that feeling is a feeling that I don't want people to feel anymore. And it doesn't just come from, not going to university. It comes from so many aspects of our life, and it comes from not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy. And too many men are fucking walking around with that feeling. And we don't need it. We don't need to go through life with that. Every single one of us is better than that. Right? So, obviously, moving on to, let's say I'm probably 16 now, and grade 11, I played my first game, first 15, which was gnarly, but I always thought I was going to play a full season. Didn't. For, whatever, I was just, so determined to be the best footballer that I could be, that I, and hat off to my mum. She would drive me into the gym early mornings, and we lived about 30 minutes out of town or away from the school. So she'd drive me in, she'd stay there late at night so I could train, do footy training, do running training, do weights training, do all that sort of stuff, right, from a young age. So I think I was so fortunate to be so hungry for success that that trait has been instilled in me now. And it's probably both a good thing and a bad thing, because I have a habit to work my ass off even if it's not necessary, right? I feel I've got a really good work ethic from that because of because to me, and once again, guys, I'm not saying have pity on me on any of this, and I know everyone goes through shit. Most people have been bullied. Most people are lacking self-confidence, and whatever each of us individually are going through is the biggest thing in our life, right? So I don't want you to sit there and go, I've been through worse than that, or fuck, you've been through a lot. I want you to go, oh fuck, there's been some stuff going on here, but stuff's been overcome and there's lessons that can be learned, right? So that instilled the massive work ethic in me. But fast forward 2 years, obviously, so it was when grade 11, and we'll start introducing girls into this, because like I mentioned earlier, one of the cool things about rugby was you got recognition and more attention from females. Anyway, I ended up in what I thought was an incredible relationship, right? And I was with a really attractive girl, phenomenal girl, had a phenomenal family, and I felt valued in that. But because I also had so many insecurities, and I truly believe this comes back to being bullied, not being confident in myself, lacking self-esteem, and just putting on this facade that I was something, led me to lie, led me to cheat, led me to be aggressive. Okay, led me to do all these shit things because I wasn't even covering anything up. Just didn't know how to express myself. I didn't know how to communicate properly. And you go back, guys, when I was bullied for having a high voice, I completely shut communication off. So now then, when I'm supposed to be having romantic relationships or intimate relationships or caring relationships, I fucking couldn't do it. I was supposed to be this tough rugby player, right? So I was faced with these challenges from that, which then led me to, poorly communicate, which probably led the relationship to not be as connected as I wanted to be, because deep down I still wanted connection, I wanted love and affection, right? I wanted recognition, but I wasn't getting it because I wasn't putting in effort into the relationship. So what did that lead me to do? It led me to find another way to get attention, which would be from other girls. So that's how I started, just being like, fuck it. If you're not going to give me attention, and all of this is on me, every single one of these fuck-ups in my life is my responsibility, and it's my actions that created this. Because if I could, and I'm still not perfect at this now, guys, I'm working at it every single day. The reason why you might not be getting attention from a partner is, how are you showing up? Are you understanding what they need, where they're coming from? Because I wasn't. I was so selfish, and I wasn't willing to look at myself and be like, hey, you're a shit communicator. You grunt, you fucking lie, you manipulate. Take responsibility. If you want to be, really be a great man, learn to be more vulnerable, learn to really express what you're going through so you can get some support. But we don't get taught this, guys. And one of the biggest things through all of this, and why I'm so passionate about this, is us men hold on to so much stuff, so many of our mistakes, so many of our stuff-ups, yet we never get a roadmap, and so many of us don't have role models on how to be a great man, to be a vulnerable man, to be a connected man, to be, a good father, a good partner, or just confident in ourselves. We never get that. If you have, I'm super jealous, but so many of us don't. And it's up to us. We need to be that next generation who change that, right? So obviously, I ended up being with this girl on and off for like 6-7 years, and there was times where I was cheating on her and she broke up with me and we'd get back together and all this sort of stuff. But when it finally ended, like that fully broke my heart. Like that destroyed me. Even though, I can look back now and go, for that 7 years, you were an absolutely terrible human being, a terrible partner. I can see why it happened. it broke my heart, and it was not my fault. It was her fault. Everything was her fault. I couldn't, look at myself and be like, you did anything wrong, because at this point in time, I was playing rep footy. A lot of cool stuff was happening in my life. So I was like, there's nothing wrong with me. It's you. Why the fuck would you do this? You're giving away me. Right? So I was that arrogant, but also that insecure. It was like this crazy fucking storm of, I don't even know how to describe it, but I just had no idea what was going on. And that was really when I first started hitting the drugs pretty hard the first time. Right? So that would have been, what was that? 19, 21. When was my 21st? Yeah, no, 19, 20. Okay. And from that, like, I don't know, I still, the drugs, the lying, the manipulation, but then just trying to sleep with every girl. I still remember the process that I had, like, to manipulate girls, where it would be a drop of a message, quick chat, and they'd be like, here's my number. Like, I had this whole process. I had this whole manipulation process on how I would then get to sleep with another girl, right? And looking back, I was like, I knew I never wanted anything. I was still attached to this girl. I wanted to hurt her by seeing what I was doing. So everything that I was doing, I was hurting essentially two people because I was hurting myself. I don't know if you guys can relate, but it's like, there gets a point in your life where you realize that, you've heard that saying, two wrongs don't make it right, but I was using my own pain to try and hurt someone else to make myself feel a little bit better, rather than, looking back now, I wish someone had said, hey, you need help, you're hurting, you don't know how to communicate, you don't have a good support network, let's just chat. What are you going through? What's hurting? Why are you hurting? But you got to be a man, you got to suck it up. You can't have those conversations. So I dealt with it in other ways, and I can completely understand, when I hear of men cheating, when I hear of men getting aggressive, it upsets me because I've been there, and I feel like on a level I can resonate with what they're going through. And I firmly believe that no male or female, for that matter, is evil. It's just experiences and stuff that happens in our life that either suppresses us enough to become that way. We use that as an external or a different way of communicating. Often it never ends well for anyone, right? So there comes a point where we need change. And that's what I hope those who are listening to this episode, you can sort of learn from a few of my mistakes. And I've left out a heap, but it was, at the same time, there was a silver, light at the end of the tunnel from that. When I got dumped, they got to a point where I was like, fuck it, I really need to make this sport work now. So I made my rugby CV, or I don't actually still know what CV stands for. I made my rugby resume, and I sent it to clubs all around the world. I sent it to clubs in France, Italy, Romania, England, USA, everywhere. I was just like, I need to get out of here, and I need to get back to doing what I love, and I want to really have a crack at this, right? And when I was actually with that partner, we did a trip overseas, and I trialed for a club in the UK. Didn't do it because I stayed with her, but after that I was like, I've got nothing holding me back, let's do it. And I would have spent 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe longer, just sending resumes until I heard back from a club in Epernay. And it was like, yep, let's we loved your footage, come on over, we'll pay you this much for trial, give you XYZ, come on over, and contract starts from here. And I was like, Mum, I'm out of here. And literally it happened like that. And I've always known on a deeper level I wanted to be something more and have so much more to offer. And I was so grateful for Troy Morgan, who was my employer at the time from a gym in Toowoomba. He was like, you should blog this experience. So I created a blog, and I started documenting that whole experience as well, which was sort of, to me, it kickstarted my entrepreneurial journey. But it was also the first time I really got to use social media, which is why some people now are like, how do you share so much on social media? Well, I'm like, well, I've been doing it for that was 2011, I think it was, that I started blogging. That I got to do that, and I got criticized and I got great feedback. So I sort of learned how that sort of world worked. Anyway, fast forward, went to France, played some rugby, which was incredible, and met some great people. But being 21, I missed the whole year of my mate's 21st. I was watching them on social media. Right, you got to remember, I was still a poor communicator. Grunting was my best language. Okay, I was in a foreign country that I didn't speak their language. All I could do while I was there, or being young, 21, self-conscious, and not really willing to go out and explore, I would eat food, watch YouTube, and train. That was it, right? And then obviously talk to people back home. That was my life, and it became so boring that I ended up back home, right? But doing that, making that decision to go back home, was the hardest pill to swallow. I still remember when I went home and I was at the spot, like at a pub, back with everyone. It was awesome. It was being good, being able to speak English, being accepted again. Everyone wanted to hear about my stories and my travels, that I felt valued. I really, really felt valued. So that was when I was like, yeah, don't need to go back. It's all good here. But fucking a couple of weeks later, what do you think's happened? The same thing. I'm self-conscious. I have no idea who I am or what I want to do. I'm in an environment which doesn't feel right. I'm doing things that don't feel right. Right. I'm back sleeping with as many women as I possibly can. I'm back doing a lot of drugs. I'm fucking hurting. I don't know how to communicate. And it's the same thing over and over and over and over again. And I feel like I've walked away from the biggest opportunity that I've ever had in my life. Right. That was pretty much the point where I was like, professional sport, it's done. Like, you got to figure out your next plan of attack. Right. So I was looking at university, and at the time I was just working with my dad. So I started carpentry. And then after a while I was like, fuck it, you know what? I can do this. Like, no one's judging me at the moment. I'm hanging out with a lot of people who are carpenters. I'm drinking, doing a lot of drugs. It's fine. Like, it'll fund that. So I signed up to do my apprenticeship. Right? The whole time I was not feeling good. I was not feeling valued. I had no fulfillment. And I knew 110% I didn't want to be doing that. Every day was horrible. Being around that work environment, which was toxic, led me to be toxic, led me to be aggressive, but it also praised me for sleeping around. It praised me for getting into fights. It praised me for basically being someone I didn't want to be. But when you're getting recognition, or feeling good, and people have been like, yeah, awesome, that's who you are, you continue doing those things. But I always knew deep down, and I know so many men deep down know that they're doing shit that they don't want to be doing. So it's important, guys, if you're in that situation now, if you're waking up every day, or if you've got that deep down feeling you're doing stuff that doesn't align with you and you don't really know why, my first bit of advice to you would be get clear on your values, what you value as a person, because once you start using that as your foundation, it opens up a whole new world of what you want to be doing. Right. So when I came back, I was doing that, and I ended up playing rugby for a local club in town. And there was this one guy, Tommy Crockett, incredible dude, played high level footy over in the UK for Bath and stuff like that. So I had a lot of respect for him. And everyone was saying, like, has Tommy hit you up yet? Has Tommy hit you up yet? And I was like, no, what for? And they're like, oh, he's selling this protein. Anyway, it was a part of a network marketing company. I was like, the motherfucker hasn't hit me up. He's hit up everyone else. Why not me? And eventually when he did, I was like, nah. But it wasn't until he's like, mate, you can do this. And once again, guys, this isn't a pitch for network marketing. This is what started my self-development journey. And you can earn money, earn a laptop lifestyle. And I was like, sweet. But he also gave me this book. And the book was the 4 Agreements. So the 4 Agreements was that book that, well, the first one that I ever read, and I still found it boring, but it's a book that I give to so many men now, like clients, because it changed it for me. I read that book and I was so stoked that I'd actually read a book outside of a magazine, right? A Sports Illustrated or whatever I was reading at the time. And it taught me a few things, right? And these things that it taught me planted this idea in my head that if I start doing more of this, if I start reading more, if I start doing more personal development, if I start hanging around people who are thriving, I can potentially do this. Right, and I became obsessed, like literally obsessed. I was going to courses, and my first course I went to cost me $25. And at the time I was still a bit hesitant. I was like, that's nearly a carton of beer. But at the same time I was like, fuck it, I want to do something different because I'm sick of hurting. I'm sick of going through the same shit. I'm sick of waking up Monday having to look at this whole week that I want to get away from. I'm sick of getting to Friday being like, fuck, let's just slaughter myself. That's where I was at. I was at a point where I hated myself so much. I was making so many poor decisions. I was hurting so many. I was a disgrace that I didn't care. Like, I was at a point where I was like, I'm just going to, like, I don't care what drugs I'm taking. I'll just take them because if I don't wake up, I don't give a fuck. And so many people are like that at the moment. And it literally breaks my heart because there's so many people who have so much to offer and they're just stuck in this environment. They're stuck in this rut and they're stuck lacking self-awareness and they're stuck lacking any concept of who they really are, that they're just making these poor choices. And it's hard to get out of once you know you're there. So from that, obviously, like, I was in network marketing and I saw all these people doing these things and I was like, I saw people on stage and I was like, fuck it. The next thing I want to do, I want to speak on stage. And I then was like, right, in order to speak on stage, I need to become a better leader. I need to actually start building a business. I need to get noticed. I need to be, network. So I started doing all of that. I started reading so much. I started listening to podcasts. I started hanging around influential people. And all of a sudden, my physiology was changing. People didn't really recognize who I was. They were like, fuck, this guy's motivated. He's driven. He's doing all this stuff. And I've still got my first video on Instagram of when I started doing, social media videos, and I was mumbling, but I was still doing it. I just got this belief from somewhere that I didn't know, but I just knew that I wanted to be better than who I currently was, because I knew the result of staying like I was. And I didn't want to be like that. I wanted to be better, so I was willing to try or do anything in order to achieve that. And, after all these things, showing up at events, talking to people, I got that opportunity to speak on stage. And all these things started building my confidence and showing me that when you put your mind to something and when you're willing to work and work hard and learn new skills, because all of this comes with learning new skills, and communication's a skill, self-love's a skill, building your self-esteem's a skill. It's all a skill, guys. So if you're lacking in any of that, it's time to start, first of all, identifying what is ruining your self-esteem or what experiences from your past have damaged your self-esteem, and then just get to work on building it and surrounding yourself with a network or an environment that's going to support that change, not one that's going to tear it down. You can control the situation as much as you can, so it's important to make sure you are doing the best you can in that. Right? Because, guys, since then, I've gone on to do, I've been so fortunate. I've been able to coach, multi-millionaires. I've, do a lot of fitness coaching now. And obviously what I do now, my philosophy is connecting the mind and body. So I work with people who, first of all, want to feel strong and confident, but I also work with them in a way that allows them to get clear on who they are as a person. So working out their values and beliefs, but creating more self-awareness in their life so they don't keep these destructive habits in their life. Because when you can combine both, if you just work on the mind but you're still frail and insecure in your body, you're still lacking something. And it's the same with when I was working purely in the gym, but I had all these demons in my head, all the mental and emotional challenges. I really struggled. So that's why now when I work with people, that's what I do. Because I know for myself, when I start going through a slump again, one of those aspects is, missing. I'm not feeling connected. I've either been neglecting my training, I've been neglecting my sleep, or I've been neglecting my growth. I need to read, I need to listen to podcasts, I need to have challenging, intellectual, deep conversations. I need to walk away feeling connected. And if I don't get that, my whole mindset starts shifting. So I can see when I coach people or when I speak to men who are lacking strength, lacking confidence, I feel like I know exactly where they're at. And when you get to have more of a conversation with it, you can really start building them up again. But if you're listening now and you're feeling like you're one of those men who is lacking self-confidence, lacking self-awareness, lacking really understanding who you are as an individual, just know you can change that. Right? And it doesn't mean you have to come get coaching with me. I'd love to work with you, but there's books you can read. That start with any self-help book. Right? Start listening to podcasts or listen to this podcast. So you're already a step ahead of most people. Right? So you just need to keep that up and start building routine and getting clear on who you are, what fulfills you, like what you value and where you want to be in the future. Then bridge that gap and get to work. That's all that's changed in me over the last 4 years. Right? I'm focusing on what I can control. Everything else that's happening is a result of that. And I'm not saying everything that's happened in my life over the last 4 or 5 years has been awesome. I've had a lot of struggle, a lot of challenges, right? Trying to learn how to speak, trying to build a business, trying to build businesses, trying to gain credibility, learning, getting out of my comfort zone and doing videos, trying to build a social profile to influence other men, right? It's not easy. Being vulnerable and putting yourself out there comes with challenges in itself. So my advice to you guys would be just chase it and know that if you're really willing to go for it, anything is possible. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. If you commit to it, understand it's not going to be easy. There's going to be a lot of setbacks. There's going to be stuff you have to learn, stuff that's going to be uncomfortable. People are not going to support you the whole way. If you get your head around that, just get to fucking work and it will happen. Whatever it is that you want, it's possible. So guys, that's more about sort of my story, where I've come from, why I have the values and beliefs I have now, and sort of how I've gone from having a poor mindset, a negative mindset, and doing, lying, cheating, manipulating, drugs, being aggressive, to now sort of a complete 180. And I'm not saying I'm not perfect at that. I'm not saying I'll never do drugs again. I'll never get aggressive again. I'll never lie again. My goal is to get better at that, to keep flexing that muscle so I don't need to do that. So I hope you guys found this helpful. If you have any more questions about my story, get in contact with me via Instagram, or you can head to the website, LachieStewartCoaching.net, and just flick me an email. And if you really enjoyed the episode or got anything out of it, or feel like anyone you know would get any value out of it, please share the episode, as it, I hope this story, resonates and connects and can impact people all over the world. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and look forward to the next episode. Thank you for listening to the Men That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachie Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Men That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.